Hello, everyone, and welcome to Fall High Point Market. And this is the first keynote in a series of 3, intersection of wellness and home design. I have a couple of housekeeping notes first, and then we'd like to welcome our panelists, and we'll get started. So this keynote series is presented by the High Point Market Authority, and this session is in partnership with Furniture, Lighting, and Decor. While we're certainly not in High Point Market Theater like we should have been right now, in a way there are some positives here. For example, the session will be recorded, and there will be a recording afterward available on the High Point Market YouTube channel. So if you can't be here right now, you can check out what promises to be a really insightful conversation later. For those of you who are watching, this session is the session live. This session provides 1 CEU, and attendee information will be provided to the ID CEC for credit. If you have questions throughout the discussion, please use the Q&A feature to submit them, and we'll have some time, about 10 minutes at the end, for a Q&A session. And if we don't get to answer your questions in person through this, because if there are a lot of them, we'll have access to that Q&A, and we will do our best to get that information out to you a little bit later on. So before we get started, we'd like to thank you all for attending. We'd like to thank our panelists for sharing their knowledge and their time. And we'd like to thank our sponsor, Visual Comfort. If you're at High Point Market, be sure to go see them. And of course, we'd like to thank the High Point Market Authority for making this possible in partnership with Furniture, Lighting, and Decor. I'm Diane Falvey. I am the editor-in-chief of Furniture, Lighting, and Decor magazine, and I'm here with our very, very talented panel. I'd like to welcome Clodagh, Charles Pavarini III, Michael Peterson, and Lori Miller. Today we'll be covering the future of wellness through a lens of technology and home furnishings that are designed to promote health and comfort and style. We are still obviously in a pandemic, and while that is challenging us, it is also creating some opportunities as more consumers are home, working remotely, and kids are home all the time, and they need that space to feel really, really comfortable. It's also created some opportunities in residential design, which is, sorry, I lost my place there, which is putting a spotlight on wellness within the home, which is just shining more than ever. I'm going to allow our panelists to tell you a little bit about their businesses, and we'll launch right into why wellness is so important in home design, how to assess your clients' needs, and the opportunities that come with this focus. Welcome, panelists. We're so happy to have you. And I'm going to start with Lori. So Lori, can you tell us the name of your company and a little bit about your business and how you are connected through this health and wellness lens?
So hi, Diane, and thank you so much for having me here. This is a pleasure. So I've been in business, I guess, for over 20 years, and I initially started out as a mental health therapist. So working in mental health, it was just on the forefront of when paint colors were becoming the psychology of color. So it was, what do you put in an institution? What makes you not like certain foods or not make foods look appetizing? So it was right around then, and then it was your space and feng shui and clutter clearing. And all of these Eastern and Western philosophies were blending. So after getting my master's and being in that field forever, I started working in a paint store and found it probably the most delightful experience. And over the years, I did some Native American studies. I worked with crystals. I did all of the Wuju healings. And I learned that there really is a scientific background to this. Acupuncture does help. All of these old, Wuju methods are really in the forefront now. We see it with yoga. We see it, we put amethyst or new businesses or scents, essential oils. So with that background and then having the counseling and the nutrition, I really integrated it. And I feel that it's so important in bringing it into both the home and the commercial environments.
Okay. Charles, I'm sorry. Charles, tell us a little bit about your background, the name of your company, and your connection to health and wellness.
Yes, my background is theater, and I did theater for 12 years here in New York. And then after doing a tour, I decided I'd like to eat a little bit better and maybe own something someday. So I went to the New York School of Interior Design for 4 years and learned the interior design profession. And, you know, through my company is Pavarini Design, and I've been in business for over 3 decades. So I've learned a lot, not only within the industry, but also from clients. I think every client that we do have, we learn more about our profession, because each client, each project is very different. And I have always been interested in healing and what makes one heal within their environment. And I feel that we continually in our firm, we try to and design interiors that will change how people feel and live within their space, and how they deal with themselves in that space and others in that space. I don't think that interior design is necessarily just for pretty rooms. I think it really enables us to be more of ourselves and to be in touch with a higher self.
Okay, that's great. Michael, tell us a little bit about you. You, I know, are not an interior designer, but you have a very strong connection to this category, to this health and wellness thing that we're value here that we're doing, and to the interior design community. So talk a little bit about that.
Well, thank you, Diane, and thank you to everybody out there. My company is Visionary Design Marketing, and it's a boutique marketing and business coaching and brand building firm that serves interior designers and design businesses. What we do is help those businesses with strategic marketing, business planning, and certainly communications. One of the reasons I'm excited about being on this panel is that for the last several years, we've been helping our clients understand the health benefits from the design that they provide. Right now, our clients are currently using third-party accreditation. And what I mean by that is accreditation from the science industry and from the medical industry in helping them market themselves as health-based design firms. We help them understand and embrace the science behind good design. And I will tell you this, that having the medical industry accredit your work as an interior designer is quite the game changer. It is cutting edge for today, and it will change a design firm. So that's pretty much what we're doing right now, and excited to be here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for coming. And Michael's going to have some great information for us later on how we market ourselves in this space. Clodagh, and Clodagh, your name is so well known in this industry. Talk a little bit about what you do. I know you're an author as well, and how you're connected in this health and wellness side of the business.
Well, I was born in the west of Ireland, and we were brought up with healers and shamans. And I was not a very well child, and I fell off a horse and broke my back and got deeply involved with wellness and alternative medicine and everything like that. And I became a fashion designer, and then had some children, changed husbands, countries, and careers, and went to Spain and started what I'm doing now. But basically, but even in fashion, I was interested in the environment. I was interested as a child in the country. You know, we had compost heaps. We did not have dreadful things. I don't like the word interior designer because I feel I'm like water. I want to flow everywhere and touch everything, because human life touches everything. And I have multidisciplinary studio. We have architects, designers, graphic designers, the whole thing, so we can touch everything just to help to make people well. I spent most of my life studying how people behave in space, and I try to design the irritations out of people's lives. I won't take too much of your time. It's a long story. But we work internationally. We work on hotels, spas, private residences, clinics, anything you can think of. And I just want to people to find their best selves within any spaces and outside any spaces we design, bringing the outside in and the inside out, always meshing.
That's a great segue into our first question, actually. So we're going to start with you, Clodagh. As interior designers, it's your jobs to make a home feel better, make it more comfortable, make it more organized, and make it more beautiful, right? So, yes. Clodagh, how much thought about your client's health needs to go into that design process? Since we're designing in a space to make our clients feel healthier and just better about everything. How much thought goes about your client's health? How much do you need to know about that before you start that design process, or as you go through that design process?
I don't start the design process until I've had deep interviews with each of my clients. Okay. And if it's a business, people, like heading up each division and finding what's working for them and what's not, and what helps them to feel well. I get their horoscope signs. We work with feng shui and biogeometry, okay, color therapy, everything you can think of, aromatherapy to help to make people well. But in the beginning, it's a long list. And a lot of the list is about getting rid of stuff and giving it to the poor or giving it to the needy so that people don't have stagnation and clutter in their homes, their offices, their hotels. And also, back of house in hotels are now considered heart of house, which I love. The people who are actually working to make you feel good in a hotel are one of our missions always is to have the workers feel ecstatically happy, have a good place to eat, and have fun, okay, and giggle and everything, So just passing the fun around.
That's great. That's great. And Lori, how about with you? What are some of the things that you try to find out from, about your clients and their health and what they need to make them to provide that environment for them that's healthy?
So I do ask them if they're right or left-handed. I ask them what their favorite colors are. I ask them, obviously if the pets are around, I'm in their home, so I get to see them. But children, how they live, if there's any favorite things that make them smile through the day, if they some clients really like clutter. So it's a matter of, what about that? Is it just having a space filled, or is it having your belongings in a place that you can see them? So, and that's very different. Like we have a client that we just went through and the house was so cluttered, but it wasn't having everything filled. It was kind of objects that reminded her of her brother who passed or her mom who passed. So okay, just incorporate that in the design. So it's not in the space, but they're in their place. So now it's all cleared and, it gives it a flow, and everywhere she goes, there's a memory that's pleasant. So it's all of these important questions in trying to get into their heads. Do they have medical conditions? Are they allergic to anything? Some clients are allergic to wool. You don't want to put carpets or rugs. So we really try and get into the nitty gritty of, their lifestyle and their well-being. Okay.
And Charles, I'm going to ask you the same question because I think this, or sort of the same question, I think this is so important as you're getting, especially in this environment. What are some of the things that you do, the characteristics about your clients that you try to assess to make sure that as you're designing for them, that it's with their best health and wellness in mind?
I think it's very interesting to ask a lot of questions initially to the client, okay, of how they use the space, and some of the typical questions that a designer would ask, color, what periods they like, etc. But I always circle around after I've gotten that information. I, of course, meet them at their house. I see the family. I see how they live within that space. But then I'll ask them, do you ever need a space of refuge? And I think that's an important term now, because with us being so isolated, a lot of us are wanting to get away from the clatter of being within our homes. And, is there a space that you want to get away to for self, away from the kids, away from the family? And if they do respond to that, then I'll start asking them a few metaphysical questions. Do you meditate? I think that's a very important question. And if they respond to that, then we look for an area of the home that they can go to that refuge space, be by themselves, and connect with their higher self. And I think that's what all of this is about, is connecting to your higher self through design, through form, through color, and through light. And I think later on in our discussion, I'll talk a little bit about light and healing, because we do a lot of lighting, and that is one of the areas where we put a lot of attention to is light, because now we're in our environments and we are all seeing what that environment needs. And a lot of us cannot get it out into natural daylight, which is so important to our inner core, our inner being, is natural light. And how does that affect and how does that work with artificial light? And can we hone the artificial light so that it works for us?
Okay, Clodagh, you have something to add.
Oh, I was just going to say, when you're interviewing clients, I always interview them together and separately, and their children separately, because very often the wife or the husband doesn't want to say what they really want.
I've heard this from more than one designer, that sometimes you have to go like two separate places and to try to bring them into the middle there, right? So
right, somehow, yeah.
a different idea of what that feels like. Charles brought up a very interesting point about spaces. Before we move on to how this is a good value proposition for your business, and with Claude, I'll stay with you here. Charles brought up a very good point about those spaces of refuge, right? And we had talked about a little bit about this last week. What are some of those spaces of refuge that you find clients need and may not know they need? Where are some of those spaces of refuge that you find might be needed in the home for that wellness feeling?
Well, one of the things that Edward de Bono, the great thinker, came up with, in a small house or a studio apartment that you're sharing, if you want to be left alone, put on a hat. Inform your partner that hat means do not disturb me under any circumstances, or you're in real trouble. But I think that there's ways one can create small private spaces, again, by actually demanding them.
Okay. Truly.
For instance, you can have a very, very quiet office in a bedroom, but you can have a sliding door to cover it. A lot of people are short of space, so you can have a sliding piece of art even to cover, to cover an office. So when you go to bed, you're just looking at a calm, beautiful, peaceful piece of art. You're not looking at unpaid bills. And, and then sometimes people go into a quiet place in themselves when they're cooking. So one of the things I emphasize, and particularly now, because I think I've cooked something like 3,000 meals or something over the last 7 months, is to actually put your music, put your rhythm on. You put on calypso or something like that, and you're cooking, and you're kind of going with the music, and you say again to your partner, "This is my time. Don't even go near it." Doesn't have to be quiet, silent space. But I think a quiet, silent space in the bedroom is a good idea, to have a meditation chair in a bedroom, or if you have a balcony or something like that. Mm-hmm. But that you go back there again and again, because apparently your body responds, your brain responds. Your brain, when you park your bottom in a nice quiet corner, your brain responds accordingly. Neuroplasticity is a subject that I'm very interested in, how you can affect the brain and bring it into better places. So I think find your place and grab it. You may need to put up a thorn or two or put on a hat, but I think you can discuss it. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. It does. Absolutely. Charles?
You know, a refuge space does not necessarily mean a space with square footage. A
Okay.
refuge space could be a really comfortable chair by a window. And every time you go to that chair, sit in that chair, you do have a calming sense. And many people, especially in the situation we're all in, don't have the luxury of a lot of space.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of people living in apartments, and those apartments can be very small. And, you know, those that have houses, that have properties, I think there's a big surge in outdoor space.
Okay.
Because now outdoor space has become part of our interior, where we entertain outside because of the distancing that we need to follow. And being in nature is always the key to any type of healing, is to be totally in nature. You know, if you're stressed out, go take a walk. Go take a walk outside. Go, you know, walk within the flowers and the trees. And that will give you another sense of self.
That's good. And so this is something like that you, as designers, understand that people need even these small little quiet spaces to for their own health. You understand this, but they may not understand it. So it's a really important it's a really important attribute that you have, that you can provide to your clients. And I want to go to Michael, because right now one of the things that's so important is you have all of this knowledge, you understand all of this stuff. What is the value proposition of design becoming an integral part of that health and wellness in the home? You know, Mike, you help designers to find their niche and to find where they belong. And since this is so important right now, what is that? Like, what are the benefits of positioning yourself as a health and wellness home design person?
Well, first of all, basic brand marketing will tell you that we all need to differentiate ourselves. We all have a unique proposition that we need to bring to the marketing process. And I will tell you that if you can position yourself as a health-based design firm today, you will be out in front of the industry. We're still at the cutting edge stage. You will be an early adopter and you will change your business. The benefit is essentially that you'll be offering a broader product and service than a lot of other interior designers. But what's important is you have to lay claim to it. You have to believe in it. And by talking in terms of health-based design, it's going to change the stature of your company. You're not going to be talking about aesthetics only. You're going to be talking much deeper into how you can affect the feelings one might have and the health that one might have in their home. Now, changing the stature means more revenue. The clients that we have that have moved to a full-fledged health-based design approach have moved from $200 an hour to $250 an hour because their value proposition is greater. And I think maybe one of the last things I would say on this is that by wrapping yourself in the world of medicine and science, you are adding a dimension to the idea of design that is not as big as it should be in our industry right now. That third-party accreditation is a game changer. I mentioned it earlier. I need to mention it again. You will differentiate yourself by taking that approach. So that's a quick answer for you, Diane.
Okay, Clodagh.
Yeah, I was going to say, I've been working with wellness probably for over 40 years, I hate to say, but I'm glad
You never
about
want to say anything, right?
But it's been very interesting that, you know, since COVID, we're getting a flood of new business.
Okay.
It's something that I've been doing all my life has suddenly become very important. And I belong to the Designers Collaborative, and I was talking to them the other day, and I said, please emphasize wellness, please emphasize well-being. But it's not just because of COVID. This is an ongoing thing. you know, people feel sick, tired, weary, happy, sad, you know, with or without COVID. You know? So it's, and I think it's getting the best possible consultants. You know, you're talking about light, for instance, echoing the circadian rhythm. It's all out there. The consultants are out there.
Okay.
And it's not necessarily that expensive. You know, it's you can help people's body to tune themselves to the rhythm of the day by using the right lighting. No.
Okay. Lori, how about you? What are some of the things, how do you position yourself in the marketplace as a designer who's focused on health and wellness? And as Clodagh said, how important has that become now since COVID?
So I mean, it's always been important to me, having come from a background of working in a jail. But, you know, our motto, not our tagline, but our motto is to breathe a sigh of relief as you step into your elegantly designed home. And that goes across the corporate world too. So you walk into your space, it doesn't have to be, you know, your, you know, clawfoot tub, but you walk into your kitchen and it feels good to you. You walk into your living room and it's just a comfortable couch that you love, you know, or a beautiful chair, or even just sitting in an empty room with, you know, some cushion on the floor. So whatever that means to you, it's that feeling that you get when you walk in and you love where you are. It's a place of safety. It's just a place where you can breathe. So that's what we tell people. That's what.
Okay, but also too, do you use your background? Do you use some of your, as Mike said, like third-party accreditation, right? Do you use some of your background as a mental health and wellness person when you're talking to clients, as far as, you know, how you can help them with their health and wellness in their homes?
I actually do. And from inception, we used to say we're your therapist for your home. So now, of course, we're a little bit more sophisticated, but I absolutely use it all the time. I'll ask questions. I'm not one to throw my way of doing it upon you. It's really understanding what you're looking for, how you're thinking, and how I can take your ideas and what you want and make it functional, make it livable, make it a space that's, you know, lowers your blood pressure or makes you smile, or especially now with COVID, you know, you're home, you're in, I mean, and we're going to be locked in again as it looks. So you really have to, you know, feel comfortable where you are and be a place of refuge.
Charles?
I think that what Lori said about feeling good is very important.
Okay.
To the end user. To me, it's about them feeling good about their environment. When you feel good about your environment, you feel good about your family, you feel good about the people around you, and you feel good about yourself. And I think what COVID has done to us, I think it's made us stop and really evaluate how we live and how we live with others and how we live and treat the environment. I think there's been a paradigm shift in design from before COVID, when we were making, you know, beautiful rooms and trying to accumulate all these beautiful things around us. I think the importance of that has diminished a little bit. And I think that the wellness and the health of our environment has become much, much more important to us. There's a whole shift in how we feel about design now. And I think that's what we're all talking about. And I think that's why this panel is so important. And it's great that we're starting off the market with this, because, you know, the shift in how we're positioning and how floor plans and color and light, it's a different perspective from 8 months ago.
Right, right. And I'm going to stay with you for a minute because I know you also design lighting. So as an end consumer, I wouldn't know, like, how do you know what to tell, like, how do you know how to explain to your clients what types of pieces that they need and what types of design that they need so that that house will feel like that haven, that health and wellness haven to them in the long run. Like if you came to me, you can ask me questions. I might not understand about the clutter in my house, or I might not understand about the colors in my house, what I need to have that sense of wellness. How do you get there with your clients so that you're both on that same page? And Clodagh, I'll come to you next with that same question.
With every client, it's an educational journey, and to educate them about design and what can make their environment more of a wellness and more of an environment that they feel good about. And when you feel good about your environment, that transcends to those that visit the space also. I do a lot with lighting, and I really feel lighting is so important in wellness. Mm-hmm. Years ago, we did not have artificial light, and we did not have that magic light called the LED that we can adjust. We can adjust color, we can adjust intensity of this light. And I think the more we talk about wellness, the more we will talk about light and how light affects our space. And light, there's been proven and lots of research on how light affects us. And, light will trace our circadian rhythms. And if the light is correct, it will give us a more productive day. It will give us an evening that starts calming us down. And then when we get into the red and amber light in the evening, that produces melatonin, which will make us sleep better. I think that is key in wellness, is a really good night's sleep. I think that will help all of us. And I know for myself, it's been challenging in the past couple months because, we're thinking of what if and what's happening, etc. But I, in my own home, I do have light that can be controlled and adjusted. Okay. And I think that has given me more of a positive attitude towards what we're going through. Okay. So light is very important. And when you start to research and educate yourself about light, you'll see how it can control our emotions.
Okay. Michael, you had something, and Clodagh, I know we wanted to chat about this more too. Go ahead.
Yeah, listening to Charles, I'm reminded of how far ahead commercial design is compared to residential design. Commercial designers are paid to increase productivity and creativity in corporations. And, all you have to do today is look at Apple's new headquarters in California. It is a great example of biophilic design. And Apple's CEO, Tim Cook, essentially went to the design team and said, I want my employees, whom he considers to be customers because they have a choice of where they can work or want to work, I want them to feel good. I want them to have a healthier environment that allows them to be more creative and productive. And we find with studies around the world, there's a terrific study in the UK on this subject, that with the right amount of greenery, the right environment, you can increase profitability by $3,000 and $4,000 per person in the company. And it's all proven now. So it's just a good reminder. It's of the real economic value of good design. So. Okay.
Clodagh, so let's talk, I know you wanted to talk a little bit about this lighting topic and that topic with, how you help your clients understand what they need. And let's also talk about, let's go into the biophilia thing, because I know we talked about that too, and that's become such an important part of that wellness conversation.
There's a lot of questions.
That's a lot of questions. Let's start with the first one, and then we'll go into biophilia.
I think that, originally when I started the design business, I considered that design was more hair and makeup, what was around me, and that one should design from the inside out, not from, not from the outside in. And I think design has swung around to this. And I think our responsibility as designers is to act as travel guides. If people aren't quite sure what they want about lighting and stuff like that, we do endless tear sheets. We bring them to places. We show them something they can look at and absorb, because we're travel guides, and a travel guide, all the places on the guidebook that everybody knows about, but a good travel guide will bring them to places that they mightn't have thought of before. And that's the way we work. And biophilia, I'm an Irish country girl, so I was biophilic before the word existed in our language, I think. I totally believe in the power of green. We're installing small living walls in people's homes. And now there's very good technology out there that they won't croak in the first few weeks and become undead walls. No. No. And particularly in multifamily buildings, which we work on a lot, when you come in to have a massive green wall with the sound of a splash of water, you feel you might be walking into your own front yard, and it uplifts you. You're getting all the elements, you're getting all the senses addressed. So it's like, I have a checklist: senses, elements. Am I addressing all of this? Okay. And am I addressing the spiritual? It's the checklist is always there with this endless. Go ahead.
Okay, no, I was going to say from that biophilia perspective, what are some of the things that you recommend for your clients as far as why they need that in their homes and what that does for them?
Of lighting in their homes?
Not the biophilia, from the greenery, having the greenery in your home. Why do you need that there, and what does it do for them?
Well, it helps to purify.
Need that.
It helps to purify the air.
Okay.
And it also makes you feel good.
Okay.
And there's now lists of plants that a lot of people can't keep a plant alive for more than 5 minutes. So,
that's why I'm asking the question. That's me.
So hard living plants that look like we window boxes full of jades in our studio, because jade plants tend to survive almost anything.
Okay. Okay, so I know what to get.
Michael? So we know what to recommend.
Yeah, in terms of why it's important in the home, there's a great study done by the Rusk Institute in the last couple of years in collaboration with Harvard, where they essentially were talking about they asked 107 cardiac patients to go spend time in a nursery and to literally put their hands in the dirt and plant. And it was amazing the impact, the health benefits of how the heart rate came down, the blood pressure came down just as a result of that activity. And that's the kind of inclusion of science and medicine today that we can use to back up and to support the words of it'll make you feel better and that you'll be healthier. You now have documentation on this subject that is entering the design space.
Yes.
Charles?
I think that there are 5 major key points to physical health in our environment.
Okay.
One is air quality. Clodagh just touched on that by living walls. That purifies the air. Lighting, as we're discussing. Ergonomics and movement within the space, and how our furniture is comfortable for us, and that the floor plans are easy for movement. Thermal comfort, heating and cooling. We all get distressed when it's too cool or too hot. And acoustic comfort, which I think a lot of times we don't really address. And I think acoustic comfort is also critical, that we can get away from noise or put noise on that makes us, our vibrations, the calypso in Clodagh's kitchen.
Lori, you're shaking your head on that one. So do you agree on those points of the things that you need to have there? And talk a little bit too about, you know, the other thing with Biophilia too is that indoor-outdoor space. We touched on it very, very briefly in the very beginning. Maybe you can talk to us a little bit about that, how you kind of meld those indoor-outdoor spaces to provide that wellness, that sense of wellness and clean air and all that wonderful sunlight.
So, you know, we know that sound healing, vibrational healing, you know, we know that music definitely touches on that. There's different chords and how they make us feel. And that's why, you know, every culture goes to music. So that's why I'm shaking my head and you know, and I hear Clodagh going the calypso and you know, whatever. So I'm off on my own artistic tangent here. But yeah, I mean, when we talk about biophilia, we talk about greenery, we talk about carbon dioxide, we talk about fertilization, we, you know, talk about, we used to say when you talk to plants, they grow. Mm-hmm. So it's the same thing. And then they did years ago, the fish studies, when you had a fish tank and it brought your blood pressure down. And then, you know, Charles is talking about lights, and I'm thinking back to my college days when it was really cool and we had the red light bulb, and, you know, of course, back then I had no idea, but I had my red light bulb. So when I would change it out, I'd do different moods. I had blue. I was a psychology major, not interior design, but, you know, you're talking about how it made you feel in the different moods. So, and now I think to LEDs, like Charles said. So, you know, the little switch, and you can change the color and the temperature, and, you know, your grays no longer become gray, they become taupey or muted. So it's that educational piece when you're sitting with a client and you're like, oh, so your white looks kind of yellow. Can you take your light out and flip the switch? And I think that's of such value to be able to have that modern technology piece right at your fingertips. And you can put plants on your wall that, like Clodagh says, I kill my plants all the time. So you can put plants on your wall that you're no longer killing because it's the way that they grow. Right. And you know, there's plants for sunlight, there's plants for shade. And then you're asking me about, you know, bringing the outdoors in, you know, depending on where, like, if you look at my background and depending on where you are, you know, if you're beachy, you're kind of bringing those colors of the beach in, you're being one with the land. Or if you're in the woods and you're bringing those colors in, they no longer fight your exterior environment. You're now blending it to create something that's so smooth and seamless. And I think, you know, it's so important for people to understand that that's what we do.
Okay. And you mentioned technology, right? And that was a question that I really want to get to before we go on to questions from our audience, because this is going so quickly. I think obviously technology is a huge force in our lives, and we're talking about light, and we're talking about bringing light down, and obviously the blue lights from our computers and our phones impact the way we sleep and things like that. So let's talk about, so there's two sides to this. There are some parts of the technology, innovations in technology that are good for our health and that help our health. And how do we incorporate that into home design? But then there's also, how do we get away from some of the technology too? And I think we talked about that with those kind of respite spaces. Charles, I'd like to ask you a little bit about, like, what kind of innovations in technology you see that can help in the home?
Well, with LEDs, it has given us a wide variety of choices with the light. But some of the new technology, and I don't know how new it is, that is being incorporated into homes, is that there are sensors that, if they are pre-programmed and you walk into a room, that room will change the light according to how you originally programmed it. I don't think the sensors can detect if you're depressed or you're happy, etc. But if that is pre-programmed and you go into the room, that light will go to a level that you have requested, and that makes you feel good in the room. You know, to me, all of this gets back to how we feel in space. So there is new technology coming out, and, you know, with the LEDs are advancing so rapidly that's one area that I think designers need to really keep up on, because it will get away from us if we don't keep up on our own education of light.
Okay. Michael, how about you? I know that we had talked about this too last week. Some of the, some of the technologies that have come out that can help help your client or anybody feel better or understand what they need to do. What are some of the things that you've seen through your, like some of the background that you have that designers need to know about as far as that goes, as far as that technology goes?
Well, there's actually maybe two different levels. What has happened in the last 20 or 30 years is that because of scanning technologies and biomapping, and what the scientists are able to do today, they can literally take a picture of what happens when you see something of beauty. So all of a sudden, we now can measure and quantify the fact that beauty and design gives us bursts of serotonin, and that's good for us. We want that. And so we have that happening in hospitals and institutions all across the world now. But the natural then next step is the miniaturization of that technology to be what's called wearable technology. And I think this is what you were referring to, Diane. And that is literally, there is technology today that you can wear as you walk through your home along with an interior designer, let's say, and that technology will pick up what and sense what you like and do not like. And so if you see a favorite corner and the technology is telling us, hey, that's good. So what this does is give the interior designer a roadmap for future design. Okay, well, this particular homeowner likes that imagery that they just looked at, so let's have more of that imagery in the home. And if there's a corner over here, you can't see, but it's over here. If there's a different corner that's unattractive, well, you want less of that in future designs. So it's here. And that's the documentation and the support that the sciences are giving us today to help take us and our industry to the next step.
Clodagh?
Yeah, I was just thinking about the effect of, if we're talking about biophilia and light, the effect of immersive art on people. Then instead of hanging a bunch of things on a wall, having an entire wall, the piece that takes over the room. We're finding very successfully with that. You know, that it's people respond very well to that. It kind of holds the room and grounds it.
Okay.
It's you know, and then of course the light's involved with that too, you know. And the other thing I was thinking, you're talking about the outdoors. We've been building a lot of outdoor pavilions with LED, infrared heating that people can escape to, very small ones, tiny little pavilions. Excuse me, I'm going out to my pavilion to sulk or whatever. No. You know, that we even people with a tiny patch of garden can bring the lighting in,
Okay.
bring the heat in, and the wellness in.
That's wonderful. And just back on that technology question, I'm going to go to questions from our audience because we are getting close to that time and we have quite a few. So one of our audiences, Kim, is asking, are clients asking for this this type of technology or this type of a focus, or is this an approach, something they need to be educated on before you can sell that value or you can make them understand that value? Mike, since we were talking about that.
Yeah, you know, when in working through my clients, it's very clear that consumers and our clients they don't understand good design fundamentally and what's needed. They're not going to understand that design can actually produce health benefits. So it is up to us to educate them. And by incorporating it into our websites and into our collateral, into the fact that we may want to interview doctors in local hospitals and get them to accredit the fact that we improve health. All of these are good little marketing steps that we can take because our clients do not understand this on their own. So it is up to us to educate them.
Okay, and I'm going to stay with you one more question from Gretchen. She's interested in designing for clients with limited mobility, which obviously is right in the ballpark of this health and wellness discussion. Do you have any suggestions about how to go about getting the certification or accreditation in accessibility, and from what types of organizations?
It's I could answer.
You have that one? Okay.
Well, we deal a lot with, because we're doing multifamily buildings and so on.
Oh, right.
And I think the main thing is to make accessible, not look accessible. You know, instead of having a tiny little ramp, maybe making the whole thing a ramp and having little steps down at the side, you know, so people can run up and down very quickly, you know, having everything within reach. I mean, there's books and books and books on it, and I think it's very interesting because a lot of us actually are disabled for some part of their lives, you know, me through an accident, you know, when where can you reach the faucet, can you not, you know, can you open the door, can you not? And I think intelligent design should take that into account on all design. One shouldn't think of that as a special thing.
Okay.
That, you know, we live our lives and we go through sometimes an accident or getting disabled or something like that.
Right, right.
Does it mean we have to redesign our own house, our whole house, or have the designer thought that might happen one day? You know? And often we begin and end our lives in wheelchairs, you know,
right.
babies.
Right. And we have a couple of people asking about that the third party accreditation. Is there some, how do you go about getting that third party accreditation? Is there some information that you can share, Michael, with our audience about where to go for that information?
Yeah, what we have is, what several of my clients are doing right now is they're first of all educating themselves on the whole idea of being a health-based design firm. And when I say health-based, I really mean incorporating the medical studies and the scientific studies that prove that designers improve health, period. We do. The doctors are telling us that, and we need to take advantage of that. So number one is educating ourselves. Number two, once you begin to learn about this particular subject matter from the medical perspective, for heaven's sake, reach out to your local college and interview the neurologist who specializes in neuroaesthetics, which is the new convergence of science and design. We're there. The industry is there. It's beginning in our industry. They're already studying us and the benefit of what we do. They're proving that beauty and design improves health. Well, that's what we do. And so reach out to that industry and say, hey, I want to do a blog on you. I want to do a video with you. And all of a sudden, your website starts to get filled with PhDs and doctors. And all of a sudden now you're changing the status and the stature of your business. And when you have a local neurologist from the University of Pennsylvania or from Duke or wherever, who essentially says that, yes, what I do improves health, that's the game change.
And that's the thing that helps to give you that credibility as an expert in this space.
Yep.
Lori, we also have a question here from Linda. She's asking about, she understands the importance of reducing clutter, but what happens if you have a progress condition like dementia, and you have a client that relates to time in the past? She sees many in memory care who are sad and lonely and missing the familiar things around them. What's your advice for designing for that type of a client who you want to reduce that clutter because that's a healthier way to live, but at the same time you need to keep those memories around them?
So we use open bookshelves, shelving on the walls and different places to put things where they're not a hazard, where you wouldn't see the belongings on the floor or surrounding the bed. But also one of the issues, or one of the, I don't know what you want to call it, pieces of dementia or Alzheimer's is collecting old things. Like they'll take a tissue and they're hoarding. I mean, that is part of the behavior. So it's understanding what they're hoarding versus what's important and keeping them on a memory timeline.
Okay.
So it's constant, upkeep and constantly having to go through it, because it's not necessarily the importance of it. It's just holding on to tangible objects.
Okay. And Charles, we're being asked, could you repeat your list of the 5 things that you need in wellness home design? It cut out for them.
Sure. My first is air quality. And air quality can be adjusted through HEPA filters, filtration, but also bringing nature into the house to help the air quality, such as Clodagh talked about a living wall, or even, yes, a living wall, plants in the home, lighting. That is critical with any wellness room or home, is to make sure that your lighting can be controlled and adjusted.
Okay.
Ergonomics and movement, and I think that is something that Clodagh touched on also, is, for elderly people and wheelchair, ergonomics and movement is critical in an interior. And thermal comfort, heating and cooling, and making sure temperatures are of your liking. And then acoustic comfort is sound, is when you want silence, can you achieve that in your home?
Okay.
And what acoustic abilities does the home have? Especially if you're in an apartment in the city.
Okay. And throw this one out to anybody. What's the best way to provide wellness while working on a strict budget? For example, working in a retirement community. What would be your top things that you could put in place that wouldn't break the bank? Clodagh? I'll let Clodagh ask.
Tiny little question.
Tiny little question.
The top things is to make the basics very, very simple, and spend a lot of your budget on immersive art, beautiful things, so that people feel honored by being there, that they don't feel discarded if they're in a home. So, and also I'm a great believer about the memories on the shelves, that you can actually change things around without hurting yourself. But I think it's really a question of, you're given a budget and taking at least 15% of that for astounding beauty.
Okay. And
Living wall, living immersive art, you name it.
Yeah, so just bouncing off of what Clodagh said, color is really important, because we lose that color blindness. It becomes less pronounced. So to have the differentiation in bold colors is really important. So that you're transferring from room to room, or from kitchen to library to space.
Okay.
So that's really important. And color, I mean, you're going to paint anyway, so color is huge.
Okay. And for all of you too, Clodagh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, there was something we did for a home for severely ill people, mentally ill people. We actually used, to your point, Laurie, we painted the door of each closet with a special color, and we put a portrait of the person who owned the closet on the door. And then we had special color for the eating room and special color for the living room, and no signage. So it was all done with color.
That's
and
great.
then we did a petting garden for them. And
that's nice.
That's really nice.
So we're almost done, and we have one last question. Are there any design organizations or groups that any of you know of that can help connect designers that are or have been moving forward with wellness as a focus in their design work? Is there somewhere that they can go to get more information?
So can I answer?
Sure can.
I know that there's a few Facebook groups, well-designed, that are along those lines. And then there's also the wellness certification. So that's just, the two.
Okay. Okay, and that's it. We're at just about 4 o'clock, and I just have a couple of final remarks. But first, I want to thank this panel. This was wonderful. You guys had such great information for everybody, and I will talk with High Point Market Authority, and maybe we can share some information with some of our audience as well. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I can't believe how fast this hour went. Please, you can visit highpointmarket.org to see the other events that are happening throughout the rest of Fall Market. You're invited to join us for 2 other keynote sessions. The future of virtual design services with Business of Home will take place on Friday, October 16th at 3 p.m. via Zoom. And that's a really important one, especially in COVID. Sustainability and Textiles with Unify Reprieve will take place on Monday, October 19th at 3 p.m. via Zoom. Thank you again to our sponsor, Visual Comfort, and to our esteemed panelists who have so much knowledge. You can reach out to me, Diane Falvey. It's Diane. I don't even know what my email address is anymore. dfalvey@sgcmail.com if you'd like to connect with any of our panelists, and I can make those connections for you. And for those of you looking for your CEUs, please be reminded that we'll share the attendee information with IDCEC directly, and this will also be posted on YouTube on the High Point Market Authority YouTube channel. Thank you so much. Have a great day or a great market if you're in High Point. And again, Lori, Charles, Michael, and Clodagh, thank you so much for your time and all of your information. It has been fabulous. And I am going to be reaching out to all of you for future stories. So
Thank you so much.
I want to explore this more. So
Be well.
thank you so much.
It's a real honor to be invited on this panel. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, everybody. So.